Hey, wake up, soldier. Time to knock those scoundrels into whatever you like. Let's get moving.
Do not sleep on watch!
This is Operation Matriarchy. Here's the experience you get right from just launching it after downloading it on Steam. No, I did not zoom in during editing. This is how the game is if you set it to 16:9 resolutions. Yes, this is running correctly. No compatibility issues here. This is what you'd be getting if you were to install it from the disk to your XP machine in 2005. Minus Star Force breaking your operating system from within. They never patched this, officially anyway. But here comes the fan patch to the rescue, which is what I'll be using. But like, how do you release a game in this state? The music is missing alongside half the sound effects. And what remains is set at like minus 50 decibels. There is one specific type of game that I would describe as a cursed artifact. The Russian developed FPS from the 2000s. No, I'm not saying that about every Russian game. Plenty of great games did come from there of all types back then, by which I just mean strategy games. And by that I just mean Naval. Well okay, it was more than that. Well okay, it was more than just that in all sorts of genres. Except the first person shooter. I think it's like the British platformers on the Amiga and the Speccy and the like questionable quality that makes me go, what the fuck are you doing? Stop. It feels like every competent developer in Russia avoided the FPS, as they sensed that their studio wasn't up to snuff for such a project, leading to only those with enough hubris to try to make the next Half-Life while being equipped for such a task. Leading to only those with enough hubris to try to make the next Half-Life while being unequipped for such a task due to a combination of a lack of experience, poor management, or simply just not having enough of a budget for their vision. Ugh. And sometimes plain old incompetence mixed in.
What is that? Why? Who? Me? But how? Here? Why? Colonel? Don't! Why? No! Colonel! No! 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 No!
We must destroy him!
The Russian millennial shooter is deeply jank in its own unique way, incomprehensible to mere mortals, different from Slav jank from other countries like Poland, Ukraine and Czechia. Now in all fairness, this is coming from second-hand experience. I haven't played every single game ever made. Now if I were to start going through Russian made shooters from the era of Windows XP, it would just confirm what I just said. Now, there are obviously some exceptions. Uber Soldier seems to be a decent game. if you're gonna start listing titles, please make sure they're actually FPSs, and also that they're not from an Ukrainian studio. This goes for both the actually good titles and the GERS stuff. And I did mean specifically the 2000s, as the circumstances that led to such specimen just weren't there after the changes in the gaming landscape and the apocalyptic effects of 2008 on the Russian gaming industry. And as for the 90s, well, I only know of 2 Russian-made FPS titles from back then. Tsar, which is a decent title. Its unique experimental approach shows what I meant. The other one is back to Operation Matriarchy. Now the fan patch isn't perfect. I'm not sure what you can do when the game you're trying to fix is, well, this. Operation Matriarchy. The site it used to be hosted on is now a nerd culture slop click farm. I'm so glad that PC Gaming Wiki still has a mirror of it. So there is no way to get the HUD properly working in widescreen, so I'm forced to stick with 4x3.
Automated life support activated.
This is Commander Horst to Captain Minerva. You're in your cryo bed? We have a critical situation here, woman. Oh, you're dead. And Simpson. Oh, Lieutenant Rollick. Ah, Sergeant Armstrong, you're still alive. Excellent. Now wake up. This is Commander Horst. I'm activating your HUD.
Sir, what's our situation?
Velians have taken over the ship. I'm getting everyone to evacuate. Grab yourself a weapon and head to the shuttle bay. I'll contact you again if necessary via your HUD. The aliens...
Commander! Commander! Damn it! I hope he's okay.
What you just heard, that was the voice acting added in the fan patch. Can't be too hard on it since it is amateur work and all. Besides, this is better than some others I've witnessed.
Commander! I'll swallow your soul. Fuck you, you pesky piece of mutant snail shit!
The patch itself, it leaves the core game intact. It only adds in background music, corrects the sound effects, and rewrites the script. The patch itself, it leaves the core game intact. There's literally no gameplay changes. It only just adds in background music, corrects the sound effects, and rewrites the all the jank English from the original. I think it changes the story in question marks as well. Ah yes, with a name like Operation Matriarchy, you, dear viewer, you might be curious as to what the premise here is. Well, first off, that's the international title. The original Russian name for this game is Valiant. Second, this is set in the same universe as the prior duo of sci-fi flight combat sims, Echelon. So it is completely standalone. Those were like the only 2 games they made before. After Operation Matriarchy, they made just one more game. Which, well, by the way, while I was making this video, it popped on out of nowhere on Steam. It came out 1 year later in 2006, and it's called Patriot Democratization. Oh my fucking... I'm not fucking touching this one.
Manufacturing consent is the name of the game!
I had never heard of Echelon before I started research on this game. It's something I would not be into, as full 360 flight combat is my kryptonite. Here is what's going on, definitely. There's a planet called Valiant that humanity has colonized. There was an outbreak of a virus there, which only affects human females. A virus that mutates them into insectoid/reptilian attack machines as part of a hive mind, while leaving the men to either die or be strugified into slaves. You play as a space marine, this guy, who looks like Billy Harrington after a few visits to the Danning Saloon. He just woke up from cryostasis, and the space station he's at, it's under attack by the Belian mutant hive mind. Here's the thing, every English summary I found, they are conflicted with each other. Here's the thing, every English summary I found, they conflicted with each other. And the game itself doesn't tell you much. And at the same time, most of the story is told through your objective bar or the loading screen text, which makes it hard to keep track of. For starters, the Valiants. Either they're an alien race the humans have been at war with, and this virus was them doing a little biological warfare, you know. The aliens never show up. We never face anything other than mutated or cyborgified humans. Humanity might be the colonizing intruder here, and the Valiants are striking back. Or Valiants are the hostile ones who have managed to get as far as Earth. And then the other summary, and then another summary. It claimed that there was no sentient life on Belian prior to humanity establishing a colony there, where the woman hive mind virus broke out and took over the whole place. Gameplay wise and in spirit, this is very much an old school FPS, straight out of the mid 90s. Or a boomer shooter if you will. Bare bones narrative, keycard hunting, and the like. A few modernizations like there's a 5 weapon limit here, meaning that if you run out of slots, you have to drop one of your arms. We also got vehicle mech sections. At the start, it does not leave a good impression. They decided to unload the worst looking tall grey corridor levels at the start. This truly is the most corridorist of corridor shooters. The tiny arsenal at the start, that does not help as well. On the look side, let's just say whatever vision they had, they could not realize it with the budget of 50 rubles they had behind their couch. They could not realize it with the budget of 50 rubles they had behind their couch. Operation Matriarchy feels like a fake game you'd see being played in an episode of NCIS by like some teenage witness before he gets like asked questions. Even the mildly unhinged premise, it feels like something they'd come up with for the sitcom episode B-Plot, where the 11-year-old boy tries to get his hands on a violent video game that his parents forbid him from playing. How do I put it? It's a Skinwalker game. Throughout the whole experience, there's a certain feeling of it not being right. Movement feels off. Sound effects don't feel right. Guns feel like they don't match whatever sound effect they went with or their look. This is dissociation in game form. Oh, the gunplay. And just shooting in this first-person shooter. Everything feels too lightweight. Hits don't really feel like they have an impact. The way enemies drop dead feels really soft. Actually, the weapons themselves also just feel really soft as well. Like this assault rifle, it feels more like a paintball gun, if anything. This assault rifle, it feels more like a paintball gun. There is also bad hit feedback. Oftentimes, I could barely tell if I was being shot at. Sound effects are just... Also some firing sound effects are just straight up missing as well. Well, this music here, this is truly the peak of what you can get from royaltyfreemusic.com/browse/category action/sci-fi. This is the music they added in the patch.
Oh my god. Commander Horst.
Armstrong, it's you. I'm glad you made it. Now listen.
So, Armstrong, that's the soldier dude's name that I neglected to mention. He gets to the captain's bridge and, he's off to save his daughter now. This minigun, it sounds like I'm doing a massive fart. Now, there's a burning question that some of you might have. How much misogyny is there in this 2005 shooter where all women have been infected into a hive mind mutation set out to destroy all men? To that I say, not really. It definitely is iffy, but it's not incel core. To that I say, not really iffy, but like, I don't get any incel vibes from this. Thing is that it's kinda hard to tell that the writing here is a scrambled mess. So honestly, I don't fucking know. I can say that there are psychosexual undertones here. You don't just make a game where your primary foes are dominatrix cyborg woman without raising some Freudian psychoanalysis. Now some of you may repeat that yeah, this is actually true. All women are part of a hive mind set out to enslave and destroy men. But guess what, liberal? Women aren't real! Honestly, I do really like the enemy designs here. They did a great job capturing the biopunk horror here with the mutant freaks and femdom strug. Wait a minute, this is just Quake 2 on those Russian DIY street drugs and weird psychosexual thoughts. This came out the same year as Quake 4. We have Quake 4 at home. Behold! The world's quietest rocket launcher. So we got mech-powered armor suit things. Instead of just cycling through the weapons or having an alt-fire like a normal game would, you manually select what you want to and don't want to fire. And whenever you enter a mech suit, it automatically has everything selected at once. So a few times I accidentally fired everything I got simultaneously. There's also an energy system here with recharge stations that I cannot find for the life of me. The plasma beam uses it as the ammo source. There's also a shield that you can toggle on or off, and it's fuel for the thrusters if you're wearing the flight suit. These levels are truly labyrinthian grey corridors. Even with the radar and objectives, I still kept getting lost often. See, a lot of these areas are copied and pasted, hallways, rooms, so it gets a little confusing. Story update. We get called help, but they never arrive, as friendly NPCs are way out of this game's reach. The enemies in this game barely have AI to begin with. I feel like the music has gotten better, but I really wish it didn't overpower everything. There is a music slider here in the sound settings, but it doesn't change anything on the mere fact that the music that's actually playing is part of the sound effects. It only affects the admittedly really good menu theme that's there as the sole piece of music in the vanilla game. See, with the way this game is programmed, the fanpatch team on their own admission had no choice but to have the music be inserted in as a sound effects. We got some cool Hitchhiker Giger-esque aesthetics and environments here. I gotta give the devs props for having a unique vision that I have to admit, this might have been really cool. I have to admit. That isn't how spherical rotation works. Well, no, this kinda reminds me of that like one section in Duke Nukem Forever, the uncomfortable Hive 1 where you... Hold on. This kind of reminds me of that one section in Duke Nukem Forever. You know, the uncomfortable Hive 1 where you... Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Did Operation Matriarchy inspire them to include that? I don't think so. But just a mere possibility. No. No. What the fuck? No. There's potential here. A decent game hidden here within Operation Matriarchy. If only this was made by a competent team with a proper budget, instead of the 50 rubles from behind their couch that they had to work with. You know, I just tried out the sequel for Creed, Battle for Sabidar, which I've heard is an improvement over the cursed original. I think it's similar.
Lieutenant Armstrong, report.
So now we're off to the Valiant homeworld. The Valiant planet. Stop! Stop! Stop, please! Stop trying to be serious. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop! Please stop trying to be serious, Sam. Please. Please don't try. Please don't try to be serious, Sam. Please, no. They also give you Valiant weaponry. They're all bad. I'm honestly bored of this game at this point. So many endless grey corridors. Gameplay is still the exact same. I was struggling to get through as it was mind-numbingly dull. It got to the point that I gaslit myself into thinking there was a teleporter puzzle here. There isn't. Pretty sure I was just struggling to navigate. Thankfully, we're getting to the end now. I managed to soft lock myself twice by accidentally no-clipping through the level. Wait, it's not based on chromosomes, but rather on hormones. The Valiant Hive mutant virus has trans rights! So here's the final boss fight, the Valiant Queen. Well, I struggled a bit because I kept accidentally falling off the ledge. But once you get your powered armor, or powered mech, it becomes a cakewalk. What?